Welcome to this episode of the Strong and Kind podcast. This episode was with Mark Novak. Mark runs the Strong Dad Club on Instagram. He coaches dads towards fitness goals. We had a great conversation oriented around the things that get in the way of parents and dads attaining their fitness goals. We got into how often things have been made more complicated than they need to be. We also got into coaching and setting up the tasks and environments for people so that they do the things that they are ultimately needing to do to get where they want to go. It's a really great conversation with Mark. We also talked about fatherhood and procrastination and all sorts of topics, including nutrition. I think it was a really valuable episode. It will definitely help you think about the problems that are in front of you if you're a new dad or if you're a parent, and maybe how to approach them a little bit differently. One of the big things was that something is typically better than nothing, and I think that rings true. You can follow Mark at the Strong Dad Club on Instagram. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're struggling with pain or injury, please reach out to me at drdave.strengthandkindness on Instagram to potentially schedule a consult or work with me to get over your pain or injury and to get back to performing your best. Thanks so much for being here. Peace. Here we go. All right, Mark Novak. Thank you for coming to the podcast, my friend. So I was just briefly, we were talking about dogs and and how you don't always know what you're getting. And then I just quickly jumped to you being a firefighter, and then you being, speaking of dogs, there's my dog barking at another dog. So Phoebe, come here. Um, so but you have two kids and you run the Strong Dad Club, right? So were you prepared for fatherhood, I guess, is a good question to start things off here. How do you feel like your preparation for fatherhood was?
It's a good question. I would say yes and no. I think listening to other people's experiences and how they prepared for being a father, mine was different than that. Like, I have some friends who were telling me they were reading like every book they could get their hands on. They were watching videos and researching and trying to really take in as much information as possible before becoming a dad, just so they felt as prepared as possible. Whereas my approach was more so trying to get as big and strong as possible before before having the kid, because I knew our first son, because I knew my time and energy was going to be taken away immediately. And also I just wanted to walk into it without any in terms of like researching, I wanted to walk into it without any preconceived notions of what it should be, what I should be expecting. I wanted it to be something that I fully experienced for myself the first time. So I would say, in the traditional sense of being prepared and researching and reading books and all that kind of stuff, no. But in terms of mentally preparing myself for it, I would say, and physically as well, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
yes, I would say yes, I was prepared. But then it happens, and you feel completely unprepared once again. But just with that mindset of being open-minded, no expectations, just kind of taking things as they come, I think that served me really well, because, like I said, you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know how massive the life shift is going to be for you. So for a lot of people, that can be very jarring, and I think it was for me as well. But I think my low expectations and my open-mindedness really helped with that.
I think low expectations is like the secret to life. Like it's not like not having standards. It's just like well, first and foremost, like everybody so we went to Atlanta this weekend. There's a big aquarium, right? It's a really cool aquarium. We took our 8-month-old son, and we had some friends with us. And I just kind of looking around at the parents' faces, because like there's like people with 4 kids, like, walking around, and like they just look like some of them look like they're shell shocked, right? And some of them look like they're having fun, right? And it's like, okay, what are the people having fun doing that the people who are like shell shocked are not? And a
Mm.
lot of it is, I think, just like letting go of the expectations for what anything like this is supposed to be. Phoebe, come here, give me that ball, come here. girl. Go upstairs then. Go upstairs. Anyway, my dog squeaking with the squeak toy. But the expectations piece is huge, right? And I think also if you read a bunch of stuff, it's not that like the best book I think for parenting for me was Jocko Willink's uh what is that? Extreme
Extreme
Ownership.
ownership. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's like
Classic.
you have to prioritize and execute and just realize like shit's gonna hit the fan. And for me, what I think was beneficial is I went into the mode, and I'm not perfect at this by any means, but I just went into just do mode. Just do the shit you need to do. Like, don't think about it. Just like, hey, dishes need emptied, just do them, right? Like, and it's stuff that I would do before, but I would like kind of put it like, cause like your time becomes just so less and less that you
Yeah.
realize like you're gonna have to do a bunch of this stuff. So like do it in the most like do it and then move on so that you maybe get a glimpse of, a little bit of freedom, at 8 p.m., right? As opposed to feeling like you got to pick up the house at that time, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so you went from you posted this
Yeah.
like last week, like the 2 to 1 or the 1 to 2
Well,
transition. Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
one thing you mentioned there that is really important is the idea of immediacy. So doing things immediately. And I don't
Yes.
think you need to do them in the most efficient manner, but you do need to do them immediately. And the same thing, like it always comes back to training.
Yes.
But when it comes to training when you're a dad, it's the same thing. You don't need the most effective or efficient or perfect plan. You just need something that you can do immediately, right away, without having to take half an hour to prepare yourself or pull equipment out or whatever it may be. Just something you can literally, with 5 seconds notice, immediately do something for 5 to 10 minutes. And that's going to make a bigger difference than having a perfect plan. So it just kind of popped into my mind when you mentioned
No.
that idea of doing things immediately. Because in terms of cleaning the house and tasks, it's important, but also in terms of training and
Yeah.
nutrition, it's important too.
Well, so like that's a good segue because we'll come back to the 1 to 2 kid transition here because I did see her post and I was just like laughing because like that's what we're afraid of because like this little guy he's good, but like the immediacy and the let go of all the bullshit that has crept into the fitness space in the past like 20 years. Alan Thrall put a post and honestly Alan Thrall was a big motivator. Like because he bought running shoes like 3 years ago when he first had his kid. Like he was a lifter, and then he's like he went and bought a pair of Nike Pegasuses, and he's like, yeah, you know why? Because you can just go freaking run, right? Like,
Yeah,
and that was one thing that I had not been running consistently, and I used to love to run, and I'm like, dude, just go buy a pair of running shoes and just start to freaking get good at running again, or just do it again. Doesn't even matter
yeah,
getting good. Like you can literally go run slow, and it's beneficial for you,
yeah.
right? But what are the things like that you just see, whether it's like working with dads or in yourself, it's like, yeah, God, we just have put so much bullshit in front of the stuff that actually matters.
I think the biggest thing I run into with dads in terms of roadblocks they run into is the idea that everything is, if they want to make progress, if they want to improve, everything needs to go perfectly. Especially
Yeah.
when they hire someone to be their coach, they expect once again things to all of a sudden go super smooth, no interruptions, no roadblocks to run into. And what happens is when a kid gets sick or they get sick or work gets crazy or something like that happens and it disrupts their progress in their mind, that's something that really throws them off. So to me, that right there is a massive, massive advantage to having a coach because every time I can see that happen, I have to talk people through that process. The process of, hey, something unexpected came up. It's impeding my ability to do everything I wanted to this week in terms of training and nutrition. But how do I stay on course? How do I persevere through this speed bump and then move past that? Because that's what stops most people is they have a plan in their mind, something comes up, it disrupts that plan, and then they stop because they think they're not making progress. So that's something that I've seen. It's probably something that's similar to people who don't have kids. That also happens to them, but with dads, it's like it's going to happen very frequently. Like your kids are going to be sick constantly. You're going to get sick constantly. Hopefully not, but things are always happening, and you need to have a baseline of what you can do even on the worst day to make progress. And if you don't have that, you only have your perfect plan. You're gonna be in for a bad time.
Dude, I think the baseline I just keep teasing around with like I'm not gonna switch my business name because like it's just become like it has literally become like it almost makes me a nicer person to be like your strength and kindness. And I'm an asshole. Like I'm mean. Like I'm not really that mean, but like I'm like a character from Seinfeld. Like I just am like bitter and jaded. But like baseline fitness, like really what matters, and like you're a firefighter too. It's like, dude, I don't care about like your best day, that 1 in 50 day that you had where it all came together. Like that's not who you really are. Like, what really matters is like, yeah, what is like your worst day like? And that's your baseline performance. And like that's really what we should be up training just a little bit over time. And that was kind of one of the things that before CrossFit became like really main like it became a sport. It was just like, yeah, just like you just need to get some work done, like get some meaningful work done. And then it
Hmm.
became like we're gonna optimize, people are gonna spend 4 hours in the gym type of shit. And it's like to make good progress, like you really don't need to train nearly as much as people think, right? And when you're like, you just need to not miss 3 weeks in a row. Like literally, like a week off, like a couple times a year, not that big of a deal, right? Um, but like these, I went for 6 weeks and then I fell off for three. Like that shit holds you back, right? Um, so yeah, like what else? What anything to add to that? Or you posted something about what was it? You just like did this, just go do it yesterday. I think that was yesterday.
Yeah.
But why the hell do people get in their own way the way that people do?
I think because they think like exactly what you said, they have to do more than they actually have to do.
Yeah.
Like for
Yes.
me, my baseline level of fitness or the baseline activity I have to do in my mind, like the thing I have to do, my non-negotiable for fitness is walking my dog.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
And what I've found is even if there's 2 or 3 days where that's the only thing I can do in terms of my fitness, mentally I'm like, oh, I'm still making progress. I have momentum. I'm doing what I said I'm going to do. And then that links me into the next kind of phase where maybe I'm less busy and I can get to the gym, I can do harder workouts, and it allows me to have really good days where most people they don't have enough momentum to get to a good day. So every day they start is usually a grind. It's a bad day. It doesn't feel great because going to the gym and doing all these movements is a skill at the end of the day. And the
Yeah.
better you get at those skills, the more enjoyable they are for you. So, and you'll get less sore, like all these things obviously. So I think for me, that's been a real game changer is just having that non-negotiable that is so in the basement that I have to do it too because my dog will annoy me if
Yeah.
and he'll poo in the house or something if I don't take him for a walk. So I have to do it. So I think if people exactly like you said, like you don't need to do so much to build fitness, so find yourself something you can literally do every single day of the week, no matter what, hungover, tired, no sleep, whatever it is, and have that as your link between bad days and good days. Because that's something I learned when I was doing a lot of Olympic lifting was when I went into the gym and had a terrible day, I knew that was just linking me to a really good day coming up.
Dude.
That's a
Yeah.
huge one. So when people go in the gym and they're like, "Oh, that sucks. That was terrible. I felt like shit. Like I was exhausted. I was sore. Like whatever it may be." For me, I'm like, "Nice. Like this is good because I know something good is coming, and I know I'm gonna be there to reap that reward." So, yeah, just having a super low non-negotiable that links you from bad days to good days is something for me that's been invaluable.
That the bad days linking you to the good days is such a profound thing right there, because I think one of your kids is just popping out in the window behind you.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
uh like, but dude, because I think I used to get so frustrated. It was perfectionism, right? I just didn't even really realize it. But I mean, there's been a lot of like little lessons over and over again. Um, and I tell this story a lot because it's kind of just like I went into the weight room at like 14 years old, and I was just an awkward, like I was like relatively athletic, but I was so super self-conscious. Like I was a little bit chubby. I was in between like, 10 years old and 16. I hadn't hit puberty really, so I was like a freshman who hadn't you're just kind of like a goofy freshman. and I just didn't know how to move, and I wasn't very strong. Like I would see like some of my buddies, and a lot of it was just I just didn't realize like, dude, you just have to fucking try over and over again. Like I literally thought it was like an innate skill that I didn't have. And then when I saw my buddies who were making progress and they were like benching, 95 and then 115 and 135, and I was like just not I was literally like shaving reps. And I'm like, dude, you just have to fucking like do the work, right? And
Hmm.
so much of it just comes back to that where it's like you just have to show up and do the work and realize that you're not going to have. I was also really, dude, if I got yelled at by a coach, I took it so personally, right? When it was like,
Hmm.
dude, they're just high school coaches. Like they're just telling you something. But I just didn't know how to take that type of feedback at, 16 years old, which it's also you could be like, well, dude, yeah, like some of it's them getting better at coaching. But so much of it is just like you're gonna have shitty days. And instead of what people do is they extend their shitty day for like weeks, as opposed to just
Mm.
fucking go to sleep. This is what one of my biggest revelations as like a parent is like go to bed. Like my wife and I, we got home
Go to
yesterday.
bed.
Like so we had a 5 a.m. wake up for a flight. Did the flight. We got to my in-laws' house. My father-in-law picked us up in St. Louis. And then I came home immediately and I worked the rest of the day. So I like traveled for 2 hour flight, drove for 4 hours, worked the rest of the day because like I run my own business. It's how it works. And my wife and I wake up this morning and we're just like, boo. And I'm like, we just got to get through today because
Yeah.
tomorrow is Thursday and then it's Friday and Friday is the 4th of July. And it's just, you just have to get through the day. And like one of my non negotiables is I need to go and work out in some capacity, and then I have my to-do list, my calendar. It's like just execute the shit the best you can and then move on. It's like that's the game in the gym and in life. But people like you feel shitty about doing a good job. And it's like, no, stop doing that, right?
Yeah, that's a huge one. Like, I think guys especially are super hard on themselves, and especially when they put themselves up against a standard that they probably aren't going to be able to meet, especially with a new kid or multiple kids in the house. It makes them feel even worse. So, yeah, a huge part of the game is just feeling good about yourself and feeling like you're moving in the right direction. And if you have that, if you have momentum and you're able to build consistency off of that, then you can make amazing progress. But like you said, it's when you get in those periods of 3 good weeks and then you're off for 3 weeks, or you're good for a month and then you're off for 6 months. Like you need to be really, really good at bouncing back and talking yourself out of those moments where you're like, I failed, or I suck, or I'm not disciplined, or I'm weak, or whatever it may be. You need to be able to bounce back from those moments super fast because everyone's there. Like I had a sinus infection for went on for like 2+ weeks earlier this year, and I wasn't really doing much in that time. Like I didn't go to the gym at all. I was just trying to like go for walks if I could and get through the day, like you said, with
Mm-hmm.
especially with 2 kids at home. So um, for a lot of people, that could be kind of like a death sentence for the rest of their year. But for me, I was just kind of like, I'm gonna get through this, and then as soon as I'm done, I'm going back to what I normally do. And yeah, I did that, and yeah, that's what you got to
What
do.
what got you started with like lifting in the first place?
So I started lifting very recreationally in university when I was 19 or 20. We would just go to the university gym, me and my friend Nick, and we would do like biceps and ab stuff mainly. That was it. I remember being afraid of the squat rack. I remember like looking over at it and seeing guys squatting and just being like, there is no way I'm ever stepping foot over there in my life. It's not happening. I'm gonna stay over here and do bench press, do some curls, and do our sit ups and be out of here. And I do remember we did legs one time. We just did all the machines, and the adductor machine, we smashed that, and then I think I tore my groin doing that and couldn't walk for a week after. But so that was my introduction, just very recreationally, and then I got into rock climbing, and started doing strength training for that, mainly body weight stuff like pull-ups, dips, things of that nature, the campus board and whatnot. And then from there, I what did I do after that? I got into triathlons. So a friend of mine was doing triathlons, and invited me to do one with him. So I started doing that. Then I got into CrossFit to supplement my endurance training, and then I then
You
got
got no endurance lifting to supplement your endurance training. No.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then into Olympic lifting and just regular strength training and competed in that for a bit. And now I just kind of do, I would say, a bit of everything. So
I
yeah,
th-
I
I
I
think there's
started
an important point there. Sorry not to interrupt you, but like the important point is like I think people pigeonhole themselves into like I have to be like this. And it's such a
yeah,
stupid like identity game. Like I like I've done powerlifting meets. I'll probably do powerlifting meets again cuz I enjoy them. It's like okay, I'm probably gonna piss off some good powerlifting coaches, but I would say they'd probably agree. Powerlifting is not that complicated. You just have to be willing to do the same thing over and over again for like years, and you'll probably
yeah,
get pretty decent. And like I'm just kind of not like I it's and I think also depending on your baseline, like you can run and be a good powerlifter. You can do XYZ and be a good powerlifter, right? But like dabbling in fitness, like dabbling in different areas and like letting your curiosity lead you is like a really good strategy for maintaining your health for a long period of time. And I think a lot
yeah,
of people, like I know people who are like power lifters that won't train for 6 months because like they don't want to compete and they can't get themselves to do anything else because their personality is like rigidly in like I'm a power lifter. And it's like, dude, just go freaking pump some biceps and ride the bike for 30 minutes. It's way better for you, right?
yeah. And that's something that held me back initially when we had our first son was I was really entrenched in the mindset of Olympic lifting. So all my sessions were like an hour and a half plus long. I was hitting specific numbers. I had to complete every rep of my workout or as close to it as I could. So when I had a kid and I didn't have time for those hour and a half plus long sessions, I did nothing. Like
Yeah.
I didn't do anything because I'm like, I'm gonna rest my body for when I can get to the gym and I can do a full session. And that bled into like a week not training, 2 weeks not training. And then it got to the point where I was like, what am I doing? Like I feel awful, lethargic, no energy, tired. Obviously, that might have been from the not sleeping, but I just didn't feel like myself to the point where I was just like, that's when I started really getting into this something is better than nothing mindset
Mhm.
and just knocking out some push ups, knocking out some pull ups, going for a run, things that I wouldn't normally do because I felt like it would take away from my scheduled, uh, proper training sessions. So, that's a huge one, like getting stuck in a mindset, and I see it happen to people a lot. And it really does hold you back for sure.
What is the reality of like nutrition as a new dad? Or what are the things that you see people like nutrition is a broad, let's just like fitness, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I know I could eat cleaner. I also know that I like ice cream. And I also the biggest thing I think at all of these, whether it's fitness, whether it's parenting, and whether it's nutrition, is just creating like a system that you can tweak over and over
Yeah.
again, right? So
Yeah.
like when it comes to training, it's like, well, what do you want to do? What do you have the bandwidth to do? And then yeah, how can we execute it over and over again? You know, when it comes to being like a parent, I will say again, we only have one, not an expert, but having some form, some semblance of like a schedule, even though that schedule doesn't always work, is still like helpful for our brains, right? Because it's like,
Yes.
hey, okay, we're gonna try to do this. That didn't work. All right, I'm gonna take him for a walk instead, right? Like we can make it work. Same thing with nutrition. It's like for me, the biggest thing is usually like if I eat like enough for breakfast and enough for lunch, I'm not ravenous at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. Whereas if like I
Yeah.
skimp early in the day, it's like I want everything in sight by the end of the day, and I have no more discipline or no more, management of that. So what's your take there? How do you guide people with that stuff?
My nutrition take. So there's, like you said, there's so many different things that work in terms of nutrition. Um, and like you said, it's really about finding something that works for you and your schedule and making good decisions. So a good decision could be, I always tell the guys I work with, like if you're out and about and you guys have to eat fast food or you're at a gas station, just prioritize protein. Try and find something that has, oh, sorry, call coming in. Hang that up.
Okay.
Are we good?
You're still good. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, prioritizing protein while you're out is a super easy one. And then eating 3 meals a day, having 1 or 2 snacks, and then having one, I call it a tasty treat. It doesn't have to be every day, but the rule for the tasty treat is it has to be something that is worthwhile and really, really good. So that means like the muffins, the stale muffins in your break room, no. Like some candy you pick up at the gas station, no. But if someone makes a birthday cake at a birthday you're at and it looks really good, yes. If you're out for ice cream with your family, yes, have that. Don't be a weirdo and be like, no, I'm not. I'm on my diet. I'm on my meal plan, so I can't have that. So 3 meals, 2 protein-based snacks, and then maybe a tasty treat is
Dude,
usually what
I
I
got
get people.
I got bit by the peanut M&Ms monster at a gas station like last Friday, and I love peanut M&Ms, but it really
I'm not
wasn't
above that. I'm not
it
above
wasn't
that.
it wasn't that worth it. But I was like, uh, it was the end. I was driving. It was like 7 o'clock at night. We weren't. And I'm like, I just want some fucking peanut M&Ms, and I got them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. The problem is like the actual serving size of even a bag. It's like I would eat so many more of these if I had the
Yeah.
access to it. Like that was the biggest thing. So,
Yeah,
but
and
that's
that's
really
another
good.
that's another one too is like that 3 meals, 2 snacks, and a treat is a really good framework and foundation for people who are really unsure of what to do.
Yeah.
And there are obviously going to be times where you don't follow that framework exactly. Like you might miss a meal. You don't have to have 2 snacks a day. But the goal of that is to get people eating an adequate amount of food and an adequate amount of protein and fruits and vegetables so they're not ravenous at the end of the day and just grabbing whatever's out of the cupboard. So it's really about getting people eating whole foods, um, foods that are good for them and keep them full and satiated for the day, as opposed to getting to that point where they're like, okay, I've been good all day. I didn't have breakfast. Like I no snacks. Like I just had my lunch and I had like a small dinner and now I'm on the couch after the kids have gone to bed and I destroy a bag of Doritos. It's like we
Yeah.
want to get dads especially out of that mindset and into the one where you can go to the gas station and have a bag of peanut M&Ms. Or the other day, I literally ate almost an entire box of Oreos. And the next day, I wasn't like, "Oh no! Like I ruined everything. I like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to restart on Monday." It's just kind of like you have to go with the flow and have some semblance of a framework and a system that you're working within most of the time so that when you do go outside of that occasionally, you're just like, oh, I'll just hop right back into what I was doing, which I really enjoy doing. And that makes things way easier than trying to be super rigid all the time. And then you do have a slip up and you feel like it's the end of the world.
It's so funny how much of it is just learning to be flexible, right? And learning to be adaptable.
Yeah.
Most things it's crazy because it's just like our man, I think it really I don't know if it's like people pleasing per se, but like the rigidity of thinking and then like and it the reality of it is like it's literally like it's neural networks just follow firing like you just it's habitual, but to train yourself out of that it's just like training your muscles. Like it's going to be a challenge until it's no longer a challenge, right? um but it really is that it's like the rigidity. But then the thing I want to segue this into is like the environment people are in. Like a lot of
Mm,
people, their work schedules, they don't manage their work schedules. And I know it's like a weird thing because it's like, well, I have to be at work from like I literally have a client. She's a woman in her early 40s. She's got 2 kids. She's a busy mom and she's a scientist. And her basically it's like a very results oriented work environment. So like if she might do an experiment that takes her like 12 hours in one day. And I'm like, so on that day, like you're gonna have to do that. Can you just not go into work until like noon the next day or whatever? And she's like, well, yeah, I suppose. And I get it, it's hard. But like but I'm like, do you go in at 7 or 8? And she's like, yeah, because like I feel like that's the expectation. But like, is that the reality though? Like, can you just show like if you showed up at noon, yeah, and if somebody like batted an eye because you were showing up at noon, but you're getting your work done, you're conducting your stuff, would that be okay? And she's like, well, Yeah, like probably. I'm like, well, if that was what was good for you, would you do it? And I'm like, because like she openly admitted, she's like, my job is like killing me, right? And it's like these conventions and these norms that like we haven't learned to navigate that like screw people up a lot, right? And firefighting
Mhm.
is one of those as well. Like the environment of your fire station, I don't know what yours looks like exactly, but like I have a couple clients who are firefighters, and like one of them was in a really toxic environment, and like he got out, switched to a different, station, and it was like completely different. And it ultimately was super helpful for him to actually get his shit done, because like he would go work out and in the middle of stuff, and but nobody batted an eye. It was actually like people started to join him, right?
Mm.
So what's that like, where environments for people? How do you cultivate an environment that will help you attain your goals as opposed to work against you?
Yeah, I think for me, when I'm at work, especially, there's always cookies and candy, and people bring in muffins all the time and just stuff like that. So it's super easy for me while I'm at work to eat those things, and I frequently do. I'm not going to deny it. But I only work 8 shifts a month because I work 24-hour shifts. But when I'm at home, we don't have those things in the cupboards usually. Like we don't have cookies, we don't have yeah, like a ton of treat type stuff in the house. So that's just a small thing that makes it super easy to avoid eating certain things. So if you can just cultivate your environment in that way, in terms of the food choices you have, and also making sure you have good options as well, is super important. And then another big one is just surrounding yourself with or getting into the company of people who are doing those things already that you
Yeah.
want to be doing in terms of working out, eating a certain way, who are just someone in your environment who you look up to in terms of their fitness. Seeing what they do and hanging out with them and trying to do what they do is a good first step, I would say. If you are not sure which direction to go or which step to take, just look to someone who has your schedule, a similar life situation, who seems to be fit and has it together, and hang out with them a little bit, see what they do. So I don't think you necessarily need to cut off. That was like a big one back in the day. It was like cutting off negative people or cutting off people who didn't live the lifestyle that you did. And I think in some cases that probably is necessary for some specific cases, but for the most part, you can keep those people in your life. You just do need to be around people who are like-minded and want to get stronger, be more capable, be more present, like all these positive things. If you can be around those people, it really does rub off on you.
It's like you just have to be aware of the fact that the people who are maybe not helping you, like, could hurt you if you allow them to like control what you do, right?
Yes,
And then
exactly.
like if there are people, or if you get, this is the power of tribalism, which everything has turned into tribalism a little bit. But if you get in with the right tribe, like it's very advantageous, because you push yourself, you push each other appropriately, or you learn from each other appropriately. Now, in the fitness culture, or in fitness cultures that can become very like weirdly toxic, dude, like I have so many
Mm,
conversations with people. It's like, where did
yeah.
you learn this, and like why do you believe this? And it's, well, because this guy online said XYZ. And like, now it's like we literally just pick something to make a problem, or people just pick things to make a problem, and then they just like bash on that, and people believe it because they're just uninformed, and they don't know that they can just think critically. Like, so what do you see with like dads believing like that they need to do keto, or like the bullshit what are the bullshit fads that you're like, oh man, come on, dude, like let's get out of that mindset?
Keto is a massive one. Keto's a huge
Dude,
one
it's wild.
still. I don't know why that has such a chokehold on people, especially dads, but that's like the go-to is doing keto. I
Well,
think it just
because I'll tell you what I think, because it's easy, because it's like, well, I cut out breads and anything that resembles carbs, right?
yeah.
And it kind of works for like the 3 to 6 weeks that somebody can do it without feeling like absolute shit, right? Like you lose 10 pounds, right? Um, it's just simple. It has a name, and it kind of works for a little bit of time, right? And
Yes, you can
so
do it on a yearly base. You can do it on a yearly basis as well.
yeah,
Like you can,
yeah,
you can do your 6 weeks,
six, yeah,
gain the weight back, do it again. People do it all the time. People do it every year. I see, like at work, they have like a little nutrition guide, like a keto nutrition guide, and I would say once every 6 months, once every year, I see it out on the table, and I know people are trying to do it again. And then you'll work with a different crew, and people are doing keto, and you're just like, didn't you do that last year and the year before and the year before that? Like maybe you could ask me. Like I'm strong and lean and in great shape, and I don't do that. I like so maybe see what
but
I'm up
but
to.
people will be like, oh, it's just Mark. He's just got good genetics. That's the other
Yeah.
big thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
that's
it,
a big one. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, keto is a big one. Now I'm hearing like seed oils and food dyes, and I'm like, dude, you are lost, like completely lost if that's your number one concern. Or people just see, like, I'll have ice cream at work, and people are like, you eat ice cream? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, whoa, must have a good metabolism. And I'm like,
but the thing
no,
is, they're going and crushing ice cream later on, like that,
right.
like it's like people act like they don't do stuff and then they
I
go
know.
do it. There's just such a dissonance about it, right?
Yeah, or you see like the extreme white knuckling of self-restraint against eating certain things at work, like if there's cookies or whatever there. And then like when we have our days off, like they're crushing 1,000 beers. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what are you doing?
dude. That's probably the biggest piece, and I actually like mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, in the United States, we're raging a war on seed oils and vaccinations, unfortunately. But we're like, oh yeah, like let's make gambling. I mean, let's make gambling unrestricted, and let's make alcohol unrestricted. Like, like the things that actually screw people's up. Like, I really believe this. I think psychological stress is way worse than any like the stress that you don't even realize is stressing your body because it is psychological is way worse than training stress. Like, I think if you're having fun, you can tolerate so much physical stress. Yes, there's
Oh
a
yeah.
breaking point, right? But like, dude, if I get some buddies together and we're playing spike ball or whatever that, yeah, spike ball, I could play that shit for 5 hours and like be wrecked, but I would be having fun. Whereas like if
Right.
I have like 6 beers, I feel like shit for 3 days, right?
Yeah.
and
Crazy.
and people rationalize it because it's like the thing that drinking culture is just super wild to me. I think it's changing. Maybe it's changing, but yeah, 100%.
Mm. I think it might be changing. For me, there was a big turning point, probably 2016, 2017. I decided I was like, I'm not going to drink for a month to see how I feel because in my training, I was tracking my weight and I noticed that after every weekend, I was losing weight. Like I was trying to gain weight at that time for Olympic lifting. And we'd go out every weekend. I'd be hungover. I wouldn't be eating. I'd be dehydrated. I'd come back on Monday to start my training, and it would be like I'm down 5 pounds again. And then I'd gain it back in the week, then down 5 pounds again. So for me, it was just more performance related. I was like, I'm gonna not drink for a month and see how this affects my training. And the first week or two was hard. And then by the end of the month, I felt so good in terms of my training, in terms of mentally how I was feeling, in terms of just energy throughout the day, that I was like, I'm going to do a whole year now. So I did an entire year of no drinking, I think from 2016 to 2017. And then since then, that was the most, bar none, most tangible, real result I've seen in terms of like cutting out a food group or adding a supplement, like not drinking at all, was the biggest game changer for my training, for my mental health, for just almost my sleep. Like every aspect of my life was affected by that, I would say, uh, in a way that no other supplement or change to my diet has ever had. And so since then, since that year of not drinking, I've probably drank like I've had a drink maybe once every 3 plus months since then, just because I haven't had the desire to go back to it. And I've seen the positive changes it's had in my life. I've seen the negative effects it was having on my life, like just doing things I regretted, like feeling bad about saying things. Like there's
Yeah.
just so much little, like so many little things that get dragged along with that, and so many positives that I saw from cutting it out that I just haven't gone back ever. So that's another thing I'm not too hard on it in my messaging on social media, but when I'm coaching people, I'm like, hey, like this is one thing that you can start to limit that's going to have a massive impact on your life, more so than anything else you can do. So maybe let's try and do that and see how you feel. And some people I've worked with haven't been able to do that, and it's really negatively affected their results. Some people have, and they see the progress so quickly. So yeah, I think drinking is one of those things that's just so socially accepted that has massive negative effects on dads and people in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of the biggest coping mechanisms for people, it quote unquote, and it is such an addiction that people don't even realize that they're addicted to, right? And like, um, I mean, I made a lot of bad decisions my freshman year of college, and then I didn't drink my sophomore year, which I was still under 21, so I technically shouldn't have been drinking anyway, but I didn't drink because frankly I made bad decisions my freshman year and I like didn't like how I felt in certain situations and stuff. um and then I have like a beer. My father-in-law bought like some Modelo's and then left, so I had like 6 Modelo's in my fridge and I've like drank maybe one of them, like one in every like 2 to 3 weeks, and it's like I can see doing this like while I'm grilling. Like it's nice to do
Hmm.
one, right? And drinking a glass of wine with my wife is also something I like to do. Wine
Yeah.
is kind of one of those things. But like I just never, after a certain point, it just was like, man, it just the next day not great, right? And it just does affect you in a lot of negative ways. And man, I think you should lean into that a little bit more on your social media. If it's one of your tenants, if it's one of your ancestral tenants, dude, I got into a Liver King hole like a couple days ago.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
I had never actually like looked at that he has like these ancestral tenants,
Oh
but I
yeah.
do think there is a certain amount of people need clarification on like what you're about, right? And so I do
Yeah.
kind of think like one of the cornerstones of like some of it is like, hey man, like let's give up drinking for a month and see how you feel. Like I do think that's one of the big things in Dopamine Nation, which is about like addiction management, is like you
Hmm.
have to abstain from something long enough to see how you feel so that you can go back to baseline. And unfortunately, people will feel they'll go off of something for a little bit and then they'll revert and then it just ingrains it more, and that's tricky. But again, all this stuff, dude, it's just our brain. We're just addicted to shit. We don't even realize we're addicted to it,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Caffeine was another one for me. Like I
yeah,
was 800 to 1,000 milligrams a day. And I just thought like feeling super anxious, like feeling my heart beating out of my chest, like just not like feeling lightheaded throughout the day was normal. Like I just kind of thought, oh, I'm tired
yeah,
or I'm super anxious. And then I cut it down to like very minimal, like I would say under 150
yeah.
milligrams a day. And I don't, I don't feel
Don't
those
feel
things anymore. I don't feel super anxious, my heart beating out of my chest, lightheaded, like I'm gonna pass out. And I'm like, oh, maybe it was just I was mainlining caffeine all day and
dude. Yeah,
like it was affecting my sleep. Now my sleep is better. It's so that's another one, like alcohol, caffeine, like all these things, like you said, are addictions that we don't even know. And we also think that if we give them up, our life will feel the same, but without the benefit of that thing. So I think
yeah.
people think if I give up alcohol, I'll still feel like shit, but I won't have my my drinks to
You're
have.
the thing to help you, yeah. Or I
But
don't
what
get to be
really
social, yeah,
Yes, yes. But what really happens is you give that thing up, you feel so good that you don't want that thing anymore.
yeah, yeah,
And like you said, people need to abstain from that thing to get to that point, but most people will never get there.
yeah. Well, and I mean, like, so, dude, we got a coffee pot for Christmas, which is awesome because we just had like we had a single pour over and then we had like a K cup thing, which
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of those, but we got a coffee pot and I was just ripping coffee because I made
that's
like 10
me.
cups and I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah,
And then I got like it was like probably mid to late February and I'm like, dude, Dave, why do you just feel like fucking like you're just ripping it? And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
because I'm having 5 cups of coffee before noon and I'm
yeah,
continuing to drink coffee until and then like I cut back to like 2-ish cups a day and it's like, yeah. And this is like this is the tricky part. When you start to feel good, you kind of habituate to it. And I
Hmm.
do think there is the power of like a little bit of a bender every once in a while to like
Yeah.
show you, oh, I got to get back to baseline, right? And maybe sickness is kind of one of those things when you like, fortunately, our little guy hasn't gotten sick and we haven't gotten sick yet. That'll happen, I'm sure.
Nice.
But like sickness, I think does that where it's like, dude, you got to rest up, a little bit of forced rest. But like that is the utility of when I was in physical therapy school when I was older. So I was in it with a bunch of 22 and 23 and 24-year-old kids who were just coming off of their college benders. And I had not been in that life for a little bit. And so every once in a while I would just go get hammered with my friends. And then I'd be like, "Oh, this is why you haven't been doing this." That was a fun night. And I would also like check out at like 11 o'clock. I was like literally the old dude who's like, I'm all right, I'm going home. And like they'd be still
Yeah.
ripping. And but it did show me it's like, dude, this is why you do the stuff you do, is because like you could get sucked into that. Like one of my best buddies feels like shit all the time. And it's like, dude, you're just addicted to that lifestyle. You just have to break free. And it's hard for him though, because it is like
Hmm.
he goes and has beers with his buddies. That's what like 5 or 10 of them do on a regular basis. And like to some extent, I had to exclude myself, which feels like it sucks, but it's actually in the long term better, which is pretty much what everything we've been talking about is about. Like, hey, going to the gym for 30 minutes, and like I love it, you love it, but it also sucks. You have to make yourself do it. Like, the first 5 minutes, like your knees creak and your back feels like shit. And then you get moving and you feel good, right? Same thing with like, when you become a parent, basically your life is like, this is what your life is now in a really good way. But like you're not gonna be able to go and just like one of my biggest things is like before kids, I was just like just go do whatever the hell I wanted at any random time and there's no consequences. And now it's like, okay, you got to make sure little guy's taken care of, or mom needs you, or you need to pick up some shit around the house so that you're not pissing off your wife, type of thing. So you have
Yeah.
to sacrifice for good stuff, is really what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's a big one. And we kind of started the conversation off with that, right? In terms of preparing yourself for being a parent, and that's a big one. Like you're no longer able to do whatever you want whenever you want. And for a lot of people that turns into it feels very restricting and you feel like you're trapped, so that when you are given a chance to, like, someone else is watching the kids or you have some sense of freedom, it's like you go on that bender, right? And people get caught in that cycle of feeling trapped, having some freedom, using that freedom to get wasted, and then parent hungover for a couple days. And for me, like, I find watching my kids and parenting hard enough sober, so I committed to myself that I would never do it hungover. Um, and yeah, I think like you said, it's just something that you have to prioritize in your life. It's something that you have to get over the hardness of going to the gym, because once you get there, I've found, like, I've been training for a long time as of you. It's hard to do it, to get yourself going, but once you're going, it's easy. And
Dude, yeah. Yeah. And making it as easy as possible to do the hard thing is like my other big thing. Like you don't need an elaborate warm up. You need to hop on the bike and you can rot your brain for 5 to 10 minutes while you're just pumped, because like all a warm up really is physiologically, it's like you were doing X and now you're wanting to do Y, and you have to give your body like some time to start to mobilize the energy to do it. And what people think, it's like, oh, I got to do this perfect. It's just perfectionism. I got to do this perfect warm up. Like I'm sure when you were Olympic lifting, it's like I got to do my mobility. That's so I feel really good for my snatch work. And it's like, you know what I freaking do now? It's like I just start snatching the bar. And I'm like, oh, that felt like shit. All right, you got to do some more of that. And that's
yeah,
it really is just it'll buff out. One of my early clients was this she's still my client. She's awesome. But she just kept going, it'll buff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, it'll buff out. Like it'll work out. And I'm like, that's a great freaking mantra. Like in the aggregate, if you just keep showing up, it'll buff out, right? If you keep doing the things
yeah,
you know you should do, it'll buff out. And that's kind of been my mantra. And like, can I do a lot of stuff better? Yes. Like, am I that great of an athlete? Like, even looking at like somebody like Alan Thrall, like, am I like Alan Thrall got really strong. He's done a bunch of stuff. He makes really good videos. Like, I could compare myself to that guy all the time, but that's not going to help me, right? What helps me is just me doing the best I can over and over again, right?
yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly it. Like when I first started training, I was super into mobilizing, like using the lacrosse ball, foam roller, bands, everything before I worked out. It was like a half hour warm up.
Yes.
And then with Olympic lifting, it became like the same kind of thing. And then I just remember going to a friend's gym, my friend Jim, who I've had on my podcast before, who's awesome. You guys should follow him. I can't remember what his name is on Instagram, but he has a gym down in Sarasota. He's amazing. And I remember going down to train with him one time, and he was already working out. And I was like, "Oh, like I gotta start warming up." He's like, "No, just like jump in. Like we're doing snatches, whatever." And I PR'd my snatch that day, and it was obviously the vibes were high in the gym that day, but from then on I was just kind of like, do I need to be spending 30 minutes like smashing my pecs with a lacrosse ball and crying on the gym floor before I do this? Or can I just start by doing the movement I'm going to do? And it's the same thing with running. Like I have been running for 21 days, which isn't crazy, 21 days straight, but the reason I think I was able to do that is because my warm up for running every single time I go run is just running
Yeah.
slowly.
Yeah.
And
I
I
know.
know in my head, if I have like a 10-minute mobilization dynamic warm up I have to do, I'm not going to do it. And I'm
Yeah.
more likely not to run at all than I am to do that warm up. So I'm like, I put on my shoes and I open the door and I step down the steps and then I start running. And for me, that's a good enough warm up. Because
When I
people, okay, so here's my huge thing with
yeah.
that is people use running as a warm up,
Yes. Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
have to do a different warm up when you are running.
I exactly. I don't what none of this stuff, so much of it doesn't make sense, right? Like,
Yes.
oh,
Like you
I'm
go to a
gonna
CrossFit class and they're like, run 400 meters for your warm up, come back. But then you meet a runner and they're like, yeah, I have to warm up for 30 minutes before I run. I'm like, what is going on? Just run slow.
it's literally just like intellectual jerk off sessions in a variety of ways, right? And it's like,
Yes.
I mean, because and I tell this story all the time on this podcast because it really is how I got into just believing that I could get better at something. Was I had to run, you had to run 3 miles in under 21 minutes to make the varsity soccer team, right? And my freshman year, I wasn't gonna make the varsity team my freshman year, but I was like, I ran it in like 30 minutes, right? And then I said after that, like, I'm gonna freaking get faster at this. So like in tryouts were in March, and in November I went to the exact place we ran it, and I just put the freaking headphones in and I just pounded the pavement. And I like it sucked, right? Probably ran in about 32 minutes or something like that. But I showed up 2 to 3 times a week, which is also funny because now I would have been like, well, I should show up every day, right? But then
Mm.
I actually picked a really good interval for getting good at running and allowing myself to recover, right? It probably could have worked. I was 16 or 15. I probably could have gotten faster no matter what. But I ran, 3 miles every 2 to 3 times a week, and I got pretty fast. And by the time soccer tryouts came around, I was running it in like 19 minutes, right? And so I showed myself like you can get faster. All I did was fucking started running. You know, and I was 16, so you can be like, well, you were young. Like all I do now, and I'm slower in general, like, and I also like I'm nursing a freaking bum ankle, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I had so much movement volume built up as a 20-year-old kid that then I lost at between 26 and 30 because I was like in the mindset of I need to do this optimal training, and I was also in school sitting on my ass a lot, where it's like if I would have just kept moving in a variety of ways, I would have been like I wouldn't be having to navigate like these little moans and groans that came because I just kind of stopped moving as much in a variety of ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of brings up the subject of stimulus versus fatigue and zone two running and all these things that are meant to put kind of like harness you back from your true potential. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that I'm super passionate about right now is like push yourself as hard as you can in the gym, training, running, whatever it is, because you're probably not going to get to like your red line. You're not going to max yourself out. You're not going to get to 100% of your actual effort, especially when you're a tired dad. So push yourself hard. Like when you have a chance to run hard. When you have a chance to get in the gym, lift with intensity, push yourself, go to failure, like do all these things within obviously within your means in terms of like what your technique is like and your training history, but like push yourself hard even if the weight is a little bit lighter. And I see a lot of people kind of holding themselves back, like I'm going to work to uh 3 reps before failure, or I'm going to stay in zone 2 for my run. But then you only train 1 time a week. So it's like, what are you need to be pushing yourself hard in the gym, because that's how you make progress. Like you said, you when you wanted to get better at running, you just went and did the thing and probably pushed yourself harder and harder each time until you got good at it. And then
Yeah.
maybe once you're at that point where you're like, okay, I have a decent base, maybe I can start exploring different levels of intensity in my runs now, different ways of adjusting my workouts now. But when you're first starting out and you're trying to build some momentum, like, push yourself. I think people are missing out on the amazing feelings you get after you push yourself really hard, because they are turning the dial down on their training purposefully because they think that's the way they're going to get the best results. If you
Yeah.
want to feel grateful for your body, if you want to feel grateful for your life, if you want to feel joyful and happy and just full of energy and passion when you finish training, like, push yourself really hard and then you'll get those rewards. But if you're just going in there and half-assing it all the time, you're going to get half-assed feelings after.
I think like a really good way to look at it, this is where I do appreciate CrossFit, was like a 10-minute AMRAP.
Go hard.
Go hard, right? If you're doing something for 90 minutes, like, I mean, again, like how much do most people really need to train to get good results? Like, I think the tail significantly drops off after like 40 minutes of work for people. So it's like a 10-minute warm up, 10 minutes of squatting, 10 minutes of benching, and then like do your accessory work and you're out, right? And like maybe hold yourself to those time frames. Like, you don't necessarily need to. One of the biggest things that I do right now, just because I'm just like, I don't really have, I'm running like one of these backyard ultras in October. No, it's in September. I need to get my shit together. I also need to get my ankle like not pissed off, but it'll be okay. But
Yeah.
like, I just do like 2 to 3 sets of I pick a weight and I do 2 to 3 sets of like an AMRAP with like 1 rep in the tank. And I'm like, it's kind of like old school bodybuilding type of mentality.
Yeah.
You eat a lot, but it's just like go close to failure for 2 to 3 sets and you're probably in good shape, right? That's why I also like 5-3-1 as a program. It was like for people who are just learning to lift, they learn to push themselves on like an AMRAP set, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
like, dude, if you're gonna go for a 10-minute run, run for 5 minutes easy and run for 5 minutes kind of hard, and then be like, okay, how was that? And then reassess and try it again.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of be dumb. Just be dumber. Like, stop trying to. I think we're trying to manipulate the process to make it easy and to control the result so much that we're not actually doing the thing that matters the most, which is learning to push ourselves, right?
Yeah, because I remember I had a coach, and a guy, he was coached me in Olympic lifting and we were squatting. And then another guy came over, he's like, "Oh, like, how are you trying to get Mark's squat stronger? Like, what are you doing for him?" And he's like, "Oh, we're just squatting more." And then the other guy was like, "Well, are you doing like core stuff, lunges, unilateral stuff? Like, what's going on with that kind of stuff?" He's like, "No, we're just squatting more." And that's when I was like, "Oh, like, it really is that dumb." Like,
Yeah.
if you want to get good at something, do that thing, increase the load, increase the intensity, increase the volume over time, and you're going to get stronger at that thing. You don't need like an elaborate training plan with 10 different movements all to try and get this one thing better. You need to do that thing. So if you want to run and improve your running, go run. Like, you don't need to be doing like running specific drills. And because, like, I've seen people with awful technique running who are way better runners than I
Dude.
am.
Yeah.
And it's because they just have big engines. Like, they've maybe been like biking or swimming or whatever. Like, the best guy at our in our recruit class when I went to Fire Academy in Texas was just a guy who was a college swimmer,
Yeah.
and he destroyed everyone in the runs. His technique was terrible, but he just smashed the runs.
Yeah.
He crushed everyone in the air consumption drills, like everything, just because he had probably like a crazy VO2 max, like an amazing engine, a huge work ethic. He put in the time and he built this incredible system that he could utilize. And it wasn't like technique drills for running or strength training or whatever. It was just he had a bigger engine than everyone.
There's definitely a place for a lot of this stuff. It's just not as
Yeah.
prevalent as we make it out to be, right?
No.
It's like
No.
like I go 2 times a week and I run at this grass field and I work on like sprinting, and it's a lot of it's like I do the 10 by 10 meter starts because it's easy and it gets me doing something that I need to do, which is work on starting faster. I do like some
Yep.
high knees because some of it is just learning to turn over. But then
Yep.
the bulk of it is just like if you want to get better at sprinting, like actually try to run hard. Like put yourself in scenarios that make you run hard, and like that's what most of it is. It's like get
Try
close to
harder.
doing the thing and try harder, right?
Try
Like
harder.
if you suck at I said this on a podcast recently. It's like I spent so much time trying to get better at squatting by not squatting that if I would have just put that time towards squatting in any way, shape, or form, whether it's goblet squats, barbell squats, leg press, right? Like so much of it would have been improvement over a bunch of mobility drills that aren't squatting. That maybe make me feel good to help a little bit with squatting, but most of it should have been squatting, right? So
Yeah. And I think that the best cue, you kind of mentioned it there, is try harder.
yeah,
I remember like a lot of when I was lifting, like I had a friend who I'd train with who would just be like, if I missed a lift, he'd just be like, you just needed to try harder.
yeah, yeah.
And oftentimes that was it. Like
Yeah.
try
Your
harder.
brain literally shuts down if you're like not in it, right? So like learning to get in it is piece of it, right? All right, dude. Last like little bit here. I want to respect your time. I know you're at the cottage. Dude, like
Oh,
also
good.
there's something about I want a freaking cottage near some water so bad now.
It's
As
so
like a dad,
great.
like it just hit way harder. It's like, all right, I want to go get some lake property, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's
Um,
awesome up here.
but what are your big dad tips? We were gonna get into a 1 to 2 kid transition, but like, what are your big tips for new dads or old dads or just being a father as best you can?
I would say to like the biggest thing that I have taken from just spending time with my kids a lot is being present with them is the most important thing. Like the more I can be present and with them and not on my phone and just kind of being with them while they're doing stuff is the biggest thing. It's not about me trying to teach them how to do certain things. Like when I'm playing, like we're just playing baseball or whatever, I'm not trying to like teach them how to hit a ball. He's 2 and 4 years old. I just want to see what they're going to do. So I love putting them into positions where they can just go and do something and I can be there with them and watch them doing it and let them figure things out for their own. I think that's been a huge one for me is just let them do things themselves. Let them figure things out on their own. If they want my help, for sure I'm going to help them. Um, but I'm not like trying to be overbearing or I'm not on my phone like not watching what they're doing. So that's a big one for me and one I'm still working on is just being present with them and letting them do what they want to do is a huge one. In terms of training when you're a dad, the big one I talk about all the time is something is better than nothing. So get yourself out of the mindset of all or nothing in terms of like, if I want to make progress, I have to train for an hour, or I have to get like 5 workouts in this week, or I have to eat perfectly. It's like, do what you can with what you have and embrace the mindset of something is better than nothing. Because if you're doing 10 push ups every night before bed, that is vastly infinitely better than doing nothing. It might
Yeah,
seem like it's not going to make any type of physical adaptation or change anything, but you will feel a difference, you will feel momentum, you will build consistency doing that and you can build from there. So that's the on the training nutrition side, something is better than nothing. Do what you can with what you have because as soon as you start making excuses for why you can't do something, that's going to happen. You're just not going to do it. So those two things, being present and doing what you can with it you have, something is better than nothing, are the big ones.
those are both big, and I think one of the biggest things that I realize is how immediately they see your phone and how much it can take up the space in your brain and how
Yeah.
attractive it becomes to them.
Yeah.
And how I'm going to have to combat that, right? And like, um, but yeah, man, you're so right too. It's like you don't have to teach kids from like like I just even our little guy, like we don't have to intervene. Like he's literally just figuring shit out by just testing out and trying and stuff. And like, yeah, we've maybe set up some things for him to go
Yeah.
chase, right?
Yeah.
But like it's literally just creating like an environment that is conducive for them to learn on their own, right?
Yeah.
And being present and being like supportive and honestly just like engaged, I think is like such a key point. I think what our generation is going to try to do is like try to like micromanage our kids even more so than has been occurring, right? And I
Oh
think
yeah.
the real thing to do is like to step back, like to be there, but step back and like let them navigate it, right? And so
Yeah, that's a huge one for me. I just all the time I'm having to stop myself from like trying to teach them something. Like if they're hitting a ball with a bat, I have to stop myself from going over and being like, stand this way and hold your hands like this. He's 2.5 years old. Like, it
yes,
doesn't matter. It really does not matter because
no,
the things he wants to improve at and get better at, they do. Like, they
yes,
have their interests and they're going to get better at that thing. It's like riding bikes. Like, my 4 year old learned how to ride a bike like right around when he turned 4. And I didn't want him to ride a bike. Like, I was like, the bike is a little bit too big for you. I don't think it's gonna be that great. He's like, no, I want to try it. So then he figured it out by himself. Then the 2 year old, who's 2.5 now, taught himself how to ride a bike as well. Like I helped, obviously, but he really wanted to do it and he got better at it. But there's other things like if I love hockey, but they don't want to play hockey all the time. So if
yeah,
I'm out there like trying to force them to play those things, they're not going to get better at it. They're just going to have a bad time. So I really lean into what they show interest in and just trying to be there for them while they're doing that, celebrating them while they do that, and being present with them while they do that. And I think that's a good way to go about things, especially at this age. And then as they need more specific coaching as they're older, maybe I can help with that. Maybe I'd have to find someone else. But I think like the over involvement is, yeah, it's kind of like a change from the last generation where maybe some dads weren't as involved. So now we feel like we need to be like standing right with our kid, chasing them around the playground, like doing everything with them when really uh I think it helps them more just to let them do their own thing a lot of the time.
dude, 100%. I think
Yeah.
there's like there's a tricky balance, right? Because like
There
literally
is.
yesterday, like we got off this plane, we got to my in-laws, and then I had to like I had stuff to do for work. And like I remember like I honestly can't remember if I like kissed my son goodbye, right? And I'm like I felt like shit on the white drive home. It's like, dude, like you didn't like kiss your 6 month old or 8 month old baby. Like I think I kicked my wife. I hope I kissed my wife. But like I did have this revelation. It's like, dude, what are your priorities? And like you can't change it, right? But like at the end of the day, everything I did yesterday doesn't really matter if my wife and kid aren't taken care of. And like there's this balance. Like you got to work, but you also like should take the moment to be present.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
also like you get another chance, hopefully, right? So just freaking chill out and have some fun with it. And like so much of the science on like kids who get good at stuff are intrinsically motivated by their interests and their parents
Yes.
just help facilitate it most of the time,
Exactly.
right? um and there's outliers to that, but like do I wish like my parents would have like maybe thrown the ball with me more? Maybe, but also like they were busy and they did shit. Like my parents were good parents, right? So
Yeah.
and it also just me growing up, I became the person I am because of just how I was raised, and that's not good or bad, it's just how it is. But so much of it is just like it's just like the books. Like any book that tells you how to do something is like selling you something, right? Like this is the way is selling you some bullshit where it's like these are your
Hmm.
options, this is the constraints that you should create, this is how to think. That's probably useful, right? So I'm with you there. Um,
Yeah.
all right, Mark Novak, where do people find you?
Yeah, so pretty much, I have a YouTube channel which I never update at all. So you could find me on YouTube if you just look up Mark Novak. There's also a guy who's like a gunsmith named Mark Novak. I think he's more popular on YouTube than me now, so he might be the first name that comes up. So maybe check him out as well. I think
Yeah,
he does good stuff. And on Instagram, the Strong Dad Club is the main place, and then I have a website, strongdadclub.com. That's it.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Have a
man.
good time at the cabin or the cottage. Hopefully you get some good family time, and yeah,
Yep. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
good to talk to you, buddy. Peace.
All right, see you, Dave.